into the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Ladies and gentlemen, I was waiting on some hype music, but I guess we didn't pick any music. Oh, there it is. It's coming in.
It's a little more praise and worship. I'm okay with that.
Oh, you picked this.
I didn't, but I'm okay with praise and worship.
Okay.
I'm a much more praise and worship type person.
I feel it. Yeah. Let's get the spirit going. No, it's all good. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know you are at the Preachers of Detroit after show. I'm so excited. First of all, I just want to let you know that, as always, we want to make sure that you subscribe to AfterBuzz TV. We want to make sure that you go to youtube.com/AfterBuzz TV. Also go to YouTube and SoundCloud. Subscribe to our channels. That way you get privy to all the channels that we have going on. And also you can live tweet us during our show. And you can use the hashtag ABTVPOD for AfterBuzz TV, Preachers of Detroit. I am your host, Lem Gonsalvez, and you can find me on social media at The Poet Saint, and that's on Twitter and Instagram. And we have a full house tonight. Hey. Very excited. Yeah, hey. Sir, right next to me, why don't you give your name and where they can find you?
What's up, you guys? How y'all doing? Hey, I'm glad to be here. My name is Patrick Paul, and you can find me on my social at Patrick Paul Everything Else. So that's PATRIC, no K, Paul. Instagram, Twitter, even my website, Patrick Paul.
There it is.
Mm-hmm. And I'm your host, TK Murphy, and my Twitter handle is ForeverTK, and my Instagram is The Model Citizen, and that's citizen spelled CITIZENNE.
And of course, I am Gary Thomas, and you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at I am Gary Thomas and IamGaryThomas.com.
All right, so let's get into this episode. I'm really excited. We've been, I want to get into, I had the privilege, and we're going to get into this in a little bit, but I had the privilege of interviewing last week Pastor David Bullock here at AfterBuzz. So it was a really good interview. I hope that you all tuned in to watch it. If you didn't get a chance to see it, you can go to youtube.com. Again, if you subscribe to the channel, you can find it there. Really amazing interview, really good guy. But like I said, we're going to get into that a little bit later. Some of the things he had to say about the show I want to kind of bring out. But first, I want to talk about Bishop Corletta. So,
everybody's always coming for Corletta. That's my homie right there. Bishop.
I like her too. I'm just like, whoa, how you doing?
Yeah, it was a lot of tea to sip in that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, you see, right, and we know that based on the pilot episode that she was the one that kind of, you saw that she was going to have some issues with her husband because of her stance, her being a bishop. Yeah. Also, sounds like there's just some personal things between them two that they have to work out. So we knew that it was coming up. I didn't realize it was going to be this early, that we're going to see, kind of the friction there. But I kind of want to, talk about that because, first of all, I think one of the major factors is that they both live in two different cities.
Ridiculous.
So, it sounds like initially it was a situation where they were kind of together, and then he was kind of living where he was living. They kind of came together, but she was gone all the time. Yeah. So it worked out, I guess, okay. Now it's a situation where she kind of wants to have that nesting situation. I want you here, baby. Da. So what do you think about, first of all, just having a spouse that's in another city, another state?
Well, me personally, I couldn't do it. I tell my friends all the time that try to go through like long distance relationships. I just say that they don't work. Right. Period. But to be this evangelist, and she started her career off basically being in and out of town. And when you're dealing with somebody in entertainment, they're going to be gone all the time. Right. And she does her speaking engagements all over the place. And she mentioned in the show that this is how we started. And I know I was gone a lot, but you're here. Right. And he mentioned that I was here for you. I was cleaning, washing clothes, cooking, and I was home alone. So that kind of hit to my heart. But
wait a minute. I'm sorry.
That's what she said. She
did say that, and the work in the ministry is so broad, and when you are on that pedestal, it does take a lot. But my thing with the whole story was, what does Gil do?
Right.
I'm
What
sorry,
does he do?
Did anybody stop and say, why do you need to be there?
That's Tommy.
Yes.
He ain't got no job.
Right. Well, she did say, and I was thinking the same thing, and I think like most viewers were like, what is keeping you there?
Right.
And I even went as far as to rewind kind of what he said, and I still didn't get it because she kind of posed the question to him, and he didn't really say anything about it, like what is keeping you there? And then it was like nothing.
Edit.
And then all of a sudden, okay, I'm out. I'm leaving. I got a one-way ticket. Deuces.
Well, how about when he was having breakfast in the cafe?
Right.
And, he said, he alluded
You're
to...
talking about he was talking to Greg.
Talking to Greg. And he said, I have a serious problem. And I was curious as to, like, what problem was he talking about?
Right.
But,
But
it's
that's
like
that honey
filling the
bunny she
blank.
was talking about.
Wait a
Right.
minute, no. I think that was a moment of transparency where he was finally like, you know what, my time here is over. I don't have any ties to Detroit as far as my life. The only tie I have is my wife right now.
Right.
And I think that's the lack of honesty in their relationship. He's not telling her, I really don't feel anything here anymore.
Well, I think it's a situation too when you're, of an elderly age or older age, you kind of get set in your ways.
Old people, don't be mad at that.
I didn't say
The elderly age.
more
She's in her,
chronologically
50s.
experienced, whatever you want to call it. And the only reason why I say that is I remember there was a case in point with my grandparents, and I remember when my grandparents, they were from Southern California, or not from initially, but they lived for many years in Southern California. And my grandfather, he was set in that. He was set where he lived. He had his friends. He had everything that was going on. My grandmother decided she wanted to live closer to the rest of our family, who were all in Sacramento, California, up north. So it took him like 2 years for him to move. Like they were still together, but he was like, I'm not ready to move yet. And he stayed in Oxnard and was doing his thing. And then finally he missed her enough to where like, okay, I'm going to go. So I can kind of see, I'm not saying that it's the right thing but I think in his situation, I think he's where he wants to be. Where is it? He's in North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
So he's set there. I don't know if he's born and raised there. We don't really know that. It could be a situation where that's ties right. We may find out more.
He said something that touched me basically. When he said that he came to visit one summer and stayed for 36 years, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So wherever he is now, you can tell he had it up to here with Detroit. I don't know what problems he had in Detroit besides his wife, but he's done with Detroit. You can just tell that. I mean, even when...
What does he do?
We don't know what he does, but he's not happy in Detroit. I tell you that.
Does he have a job there?
Does he have to? But that's the thing. Does he have to do something?
You can't just live somewhere.
might be
live somewhere.
retired.
Well, because
He
the show's not directed around him, I'm thinking they thinking the audience don't care what he really do. But because we're talking about what's keeping you in North Carolina, it might be prevalent to know what do you do.
You can't do Bishop Corletta like that in my eyes. I need to know.
Well, this is the thing. He was saying, and this is in the conversation he was saying to Greg. He was saying, look, we're talking about submission and head of the household and stuff like that. He feels like, okay, if I want to live in North Carolina, then you should move to North Carolina. I'm not trying to be distant. I don't think it's a situation where they want to be distant.
I didn't hear that.
I didn't hear that
he wanted her. He did.
He did.
He's
said
hurt,
that.
but here's the thing about being the head of household. You have to keep her goals and dreams in mind as well as you make decisions. So she submits to you with that, knowing that she's trusting you to do that. And she's a bishop of this church, and it's kind of where God is pushing her path. Why would you do that without considering her feelings and her career?
I totally understand that. And I think it's obviously they've been married 11 years. So this has been ongoing for probably the entire time they've been married, this dichotomy of them. They didn't say. I don't think so. If they've only been married 11 years, they probably, if it was both their, they did say it was both their second marriage.
Papa looked like a Rolling Stone to me. I don't know.
Seriously.
I don't think, honestly, I don't think anything, I don't think Gilbert is doing anything foul. I honestly think.
I do.
I do too.
I think Gil has a little bit of a mouthpiece on him.
Yeah,
he gets
he's
a chance.
a flirt.
He starts running his
He
mouth.
was flirting in
with
the
the waitress.
diner.
In the diner. Everybody caught that, right?
Here comes that
Right?
good waitress.
You caught that, right?
Wait a
That good old waitress right there with them Tingo bitties.
Wait a second.
Gil is a little bit extra. You know it.
I don't think, extra. Wait, first of all, Bishop Vaughn is, you talking about extra. Bishop Vaughn is extra. And I think, too, she already, let's look at the whole picture. She already has a problem with the whole submission.
She does.
And the whole
She's
man is the head of the
strong-minded.
house. She's very strong-minded.
turns up.
And someone like him is probably like, I would rather be away from, or, you know what I'm saying, in a situation where I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
Because in Detroit, he's not comfortable. She ends up taking that headship role, and he kind of plays a back seat. and he probably doesn't like that.
Yeah. Right.
And so that's why, again, I think it's important for him to be where he's comfortable. Yes, let's be married. Yes, let's live a happy life. But I want to be comfortable where I'm living.
Well, they need to work out some kind of like solution where they can split the difference between
Right.
If
both
if your wife comes to you and tells you, "I don't like when you're gone," you put that in your mind. He completely brushed it up.
He said, "Let me go get my shirt."
I got things to do.
He said, she soon as she
I need my
said,
shirt.
soon as she said, I don't like it when you leave. Yeah, I thought he was gonna come over there and give her a hug. He said,
I gotta
"Excuse me, I
get
gotta
these
get shirts." I'm like, wow, you have no love.
Well, I mean, okay, yes,
Cold-blooded.
I that was a moment that he could have like showed a tender side
And hugged her.
I agree.
She said, "I don't like being here alone."
I
I was
totally
like,
agree.
"Aw."
But
Well,
he was
in his mind, he's probably like, what
Right.
about all them nights I was alone?
right, exactly, and that's what I'm saying.
Big
He's going
payback.
with the pat. He's going with the bat. She's like, "Are you trying to pay me back?" And I
Right.
think in some instance he probably is because again, it's like, wait a second, I did all this for you. I'm trying to now do what I want to do, and you're not trying to be leeway for me.
You know what I think? I think that he's not really necessarily trying to get payback, but I think he's using payback as an excuse, as one of his excuses
do what he wants
to do
to
what
do.
he wants to do.
No,
that's what I think.
No, I think so.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's like direct payback in the sense like I'm going to do this to you
Right.
Yeah.
just for the sense of
Yeah.
payback. I think it's like, okay, well, if you want to take it like that,
Yeah.
then fine.
Yeah.
Because this is what I want to do, and
Yeah.
I'm tired of bending to what you want.
You're right.
Because it sounds like he's done that pretty much for the entire time.
Tell me this. Do you think he's a man of God or a man of the cloth? I mean,
He's not a man of the cloth.
No.
He is a man of God, I believe. I don't think she would marry him if he was. I
Okay.
believe he's a strong believer.
You mean, does he have like a title in church, like as a pastor, preacher, or anything like that?
Basically, we were saying, I was like, maybe, he worked in the church some type of capacity.
Right.
And she was like, not necessarily. He could have just been a member.
Right.
No.
But I'm thinking, what do you guys think?
He does.
Yeah,
I don't think he does.
Yeah, I don't think he has any type of position in the
might have been
ministry or
an
anything
usher.
like that. He could be deacon or who knows. But I mean, I can't see her being a bishop and then him not being a Christian
and
or
that's-
saved
that's
or anything
that's
like
my
that.
point.
Absolutely, no. I think he definitely is a believer, and I think too that would also her being a bishop that might, have some kind of, that's why she's able to kind of do what she has to do.
Because of her leadership role, there could be, some church hurt within himself that is causing this divide between them, where his faith is a little bit teetering, because of how he feels towards her and her leadership and how things have affected his marriage and his life. Some people will get affected like that very quickly.
That's true too. I mean, I think there's a lot. I think we can all agree there's a lot of hurt in there. There's something that they have to patch together. Yeah. They have to work out amongst themselves.
Maybe try some counseling
or something like that. But it's on both ends. It's on both ends. It's no one person I think is at fault. Yeah. I think it's on both of them, but they're both strong individuals, and they have to come to a consensus.
I like that you said it's neither one of those guys' fault.
Sure.
But the way she always presented it almost seems like it's his fault.
Oh,
because when she said it at the
She's
dinner,
a woman.
when she said it at the dinner, she didn't look at him at all, not once. she didn't look at him at all, not once, and you can see him sit back like, oh, she's going to tell this story again.
Well,
like,
no,
I don't
I
live
mean,
here.
going back, and that's a good point you brought up. When they were at dinner, that body language shows everything.
Yeah.
What is it, like 90% of communication
Yes,
is
it is.
nonverbal?
Yep.
And so you could see by his body language, and I think that does relate to some of the issues to why he is not so sold on being in Detroit because of how she is. So, but I'm saying it's not both at fault in the sense that he also, he's not, obviously not very communicative with her and wanting to do that and not, on the submissive side as far as like what she wants. He's like, I'm done. But I think, and I want to put more on it, and I know you're a Bishop Corletta fan, Gary, but I think that based on how she is and looking at dinner is a prime example of why it's very difficult to be married to her.
What do you think about being submissive to a man?
Uh-oh. Let me
Well,
sip tea.
I feel yes, it's the tea.
All three of us look at tea on that one too.
Nah, we really went there.
I definitely feel in a relationship that both partners it's about balance, negotiation, about understanding each other.
Right.
It's a time to surrender on both parts. So, as far as submitting and being subservient,
Right.
I don't know if I'd say that, but I definitely feel that there are times when a woman should surrender and there's times when the man should surrender.
So in this particular situation, would you be submissive to a man that doesn't live in your house and he's always gone? Would you feel like you have to be submissive to him even though he's gone?
Well, it doesn't seem like they're working together as a unit.
Maybe if she knew what he did.
Right. Yeah. If I had a little more backstory, if I had a little more backstory, I could speak on it.
I feel
but
like
it's a mystery.
All right.
on a brighter note, you know, because y'all know I'm a Bishop Corletta fan. But
what do you like about her so much?
I like she's strong. She's a strong woman.
Powerful, and I think
is.
that for a woman, and she's just so uplifting. It's so much more to see a woman in ministry, because you know you do see a lot of men.
Yes.
But
Yes.
when you see women, like, you know, my first lady preaches as well,
Okay.
and she is in your teeth. Like, she tells you, and it's so much more powerful to see someone different and to see what she's doing for young women. But on a brighter note of that dinner, I was happy to see her and Dorinda together. They pinned them as enemies because of their ideas, just the way the clips they pick, and it was so good to just see them sit down and be cordial and you know just share laughs, because they've known each other a really long time.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think at that time when they ask, is he submissive to you? And he chimed in. He was like, yeah, all the time. And she was like, I am. I was like, I don't know if he got the notes. I don't know if he got the notes. Like, you ain't supposed to say that, but it was all good.
But it is. I kind of want to move on into get into Pastor Shelby. And
the Shelby Five.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
And taking out his daughters. So we see that his daughter, and this particular one is Amber, who's his youngest daughter. She's turning 16. And part of what he does is he takes out, you know, his daughters on their 16th birthday out on a date.
Well, that's sweet.
And it's their first date. And so he shows them a good time. And basically, and the point is to show them a good man. And he's their father and what a good man is supposed to do. I just kind of want to get your thoughts on that particular thing. What do you think with that? Do you think it's a good idea for that? Do you think it's sending a good message as far as, you know, for the daughter? I'd like you to chime in, TK.
Absolutely, because usually a woman's relationship with her father will trickle into her relationships with her significant partner.
Sure.
So, you know, I feel like the father being dominant in his daughter's lives, that is very important, because, you know, it's like the father is the first man that a young child is going to love. So he does set the standard. And, you know, and like she said, she was fortunate to have that opportunity. And there's a lot of women out here that didn't get that chance with their father. They didn't grow up with them, or, you know, it's like they have a strange relationship. Sure. So, you know, I think that's very, you know, influential for her life, because now everybody else who comes into her life has to meet that standard.
It's a high standard. It's a high standard. Now, that being said, I know that with him, and me and Gary have talked a couple of times regarding kind of how they treat their daughters and their children in general. Seems like they have a lot of handle on what goes on, you know, in their children's lives. You know, they have the Shelby Five, the knockoff of the Jackson Five, as we talked about. And Gary shaking his head. But I know that there's always been this thing with him, and it's appeared in all the episodes. This is obviously the third episode. But when he talks with his wife, and his wife is of course the straight opposite of Bishop Vaughn, but how she loves being that submissive role. And there was one part where he's talking to his wife, and he said that women, and he's guys quoting the scripture, weaker vessels. And I mean, when he says these type of things, whether it's in the Bible, and obviously you can spin it how you want, I think he spins it hard.
Quite well.
Spar hard on the fact that women have their place. And that was another thing that Bishop Vaughn had an issue with when they had the powwow. And that's how he treats his wife, but his daughters also, in previous episodes, we've seen when they've been discussing, and they feel the same way because of how they're being brought up. Right. And oh yes, I'm going to submit to my husband, you know, this, that, and the other. And the question was posed about, you know, whether a woman president, and I wouldn't vote for them, and all of these type of things. And I personally have issue with that, only because I don't think that you should lose yourself as a woman being strong and being independent and being all those things. Yes, I think it's great that he's teaching them what a man should do for them when they become into a relationship, but they shouldn't lose themselves in their womanhood.
I agree with you.
Well, I think it's a good balance of yin and yang between the two, because if you're going to be submissive to a man, then he's the perfect example to be submissive to. If I had a daughter, a guy like that would come to the door, suited and booted, knock on the door, present himself correctly, go have some dinner, some lunch, whatever you guys are going to do. So I think that's a perfect balance in that particular situation. Now, if we have a single family household, then that submissiveness to men and doing what your
just
man
because he's a man.
That's where it falls short. That's where they get confused. That's where the young teenage women or girls get confused on. They submit to everybody, every guy.
Well,
I'm gonna do whatever these guys
There's
say.
leaders and there's followers. So, you know, if a man is being a leader and, you know, he's doing his part, then of course, you know, you have to cooperate and just, you know, like work together.
I just, you know what, I never agree with Don Shelby. You know, I can't
not a supporter.
No, I'm not a supporter. You know, I definitely, we have different ideals just because of our religious beliefs. But I thought the date was amazing. I thought that was, you know, very powerful for his daughter, and I thought it was great. You know, that was the first time I was like, you know what, that was like the perfect thing to do, and I really agree with doing that. But I just can't agree with this. It's almost like a brainwashing, in my opinion. And I'm not trying to, you know, knock them, because I think that, you know, that's what they believe in. By all means, we're all allowed to believe what we want to. But I think it's just a brainwashing, because they are trained to think that they are weaker vessels. They're lesser than men, and they are supposed to complete him. Right. You know, there's no. It's like almost in the way he talks to his wife and the way his wife talks to him. The interaction is almost like there's a master-slave type of respect in
like
there.
it's not an equal balance.
No,
basically.
it's
There's
not
not equal balance.
And as for me, you know, saying him and his wife are equally yoked. I think when you're equally yoked, Christ looks the same on you too, and your ideals align, and they are equally yoked but there's not women like that, and we should not be training women to be thinking that way.
Well, he comes from the Joe Jackson era.
The Joe Jackson
I'm just
era.
saying, because even in the Jackson 5, you know, Joe was the leader of the family, telling the family what to do, and he is that. Don is, I mean, if you saw the previous episodes, you saw him telling his kids what to do, what not to do, and things like that.
I think
isn't that what a father does?
Yeah, that's
but
what
with
a
the
father
iron
does.
fist. But with the
I think
iron
that's
fist.
different, though, in the sense of how the daughters are being treated.
Right.
My thing is the whole point with the daughters being taught to be super submissive and not have any type of relation to want to aspire to be anything but that. That's what it feels like it is.
Where's the empowerment to be a CEO? The empowerment to go to college and be a great woman, to be a strong woman by herself first and foremost. Where is that? You know, it's like the ultimate goal is to be a subservient to a man. Right. You know, you need more than that.
Well, see, I haven't seen that much as far as like what he's been instilling.
Well, that's what he has. So we're telling you.
Right.
But no, it's just been a situation where, again, I think he's a great father. He obviously takes care of his family. He loves his family dearly.
At least he's not teaching them how to twerk.
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
No, I think he's an amazing father, and I think he's teaching them amazing things. But you could see the meekness that's in every woman in that house. They have a certain meekness.
You know what? I'm sorry. I did see like almost a cultness with him and the kids. All the kids kept saying, "I want to meet a guy like my dad."
Yeah.
You know, almost to the point of, that's kind of weird. Not necessarily, because I know that's what you want. You want somebody like your father.
Right.
You want someone, you know, as a man, I would like somebody like my mother because she's strong. But it's almost, they felt cultish to me the first couple episodes that I watched when they said it more than once on. If they don't measure up to my dad, I don't want them. Like,
you know
wait
what?
a minute.
And when Jeremiah talks about false gods, and I feel like that sometimes he's raised up to a false god, right?
There you go, Gary.
It's just so crazy.
But it
because
also says honor thy father and mother.
Honor them. But when we make him a false god, everything was about him. Everything they want a man like him. He's so great. No one's like you. Honor him.
That's true.
I think what stood out for me is when they had the women's luncheon, and when they were posing the questions to them about, like I said, women in power and things of that nature. And the daughters were basically saying, I wouldn't vote for a woman president. I feel like, you know, being totally submissive to my husband, all of those type of things. So that stood out because they're amongst other women of God. And when they compare themselves, because them standing alone, it's like, oh, okay, well, I see that. But when you pair them and you put them in a situation where they're against other women of God that are doing amazing things and it doesn't seem right, then you have to kind of look at it for what it is. And that's kind of how I see it in that situation. But, you know, we'll see how that develops. I'm sure we're going to see more about that, and I'm sure he'll probably, I don't want to get into predictions, we'll get into that later, but that he's probably going to be challenged about, you know, some of his beliefs and some of the things he's doing. So I want to get into Bishop Langston and kind of how he was portrayed here in the show. It starts off with him meeting with his spiritual father, Apostle Jackson. He's a bishop-elect at this point, and he's getting ready to become a full-fledged bishop. So he's talking to his spiritual advisor, and he's kind of telling him that he kind of needs to kind of clean his house in the sense of if there's anything that's kind of holding you back, any unforgiveness that's there, anything that's happened in your past that you need to deal with, to do it now, so then when you become a bishop, that it doesn't, you know, hurt you or bring you down or things of that nature. I thought that was good advice. I thought it was interesting that he was talking about his birth mother, and we find out about his family history. He did say he grew up in the streets earlier, kind of in the first episode, and that he's, you know, a product of that. He's kind of come from that, given his life over to the Lord. But we do find out that his mother was killed murdered in the streets, and he was raised by his auntie, which was really powerful. And he visits his mom's grave. I think it was good to see that side of him because I think initially, and again, we're all being introduced to these characters. It hasn't been a whole lot. We don't know a whole lot about them. But with him, he kind of had this air about him, I felt like, where it was like, I came from the streets, you know, and it's good to see that a vulnerable side of him. I think anybody that's in a position of power, you have to understand you came from something and you can't negate that. But I thought it was good for him to kind of talk. I want to see what you feel about his discussion with our friend, Pastor Bullock, and how that went. Because earlier, when he was talking to him, you know, it didn't go so well.
It didn't go so well this time.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, Bullock kept cutting him off
Yeah.
and wanting to get his point across. Man, Bullock was turn up. No matter what conversation he has with anyone, he's gonna turn it up. But back to Langston, he was trying his hardest just to get what he wanted to say out and get this off his chest. Like you said, his spiritual father told him to do this. So he was basically reaching out, like, let me clean up my house with you because I have an issue with you. I have an issue with my mother, which is my aunt, really. So he was trying to clear those things up. But really, Bullock was really being a little, you know, he was being a little hard on him, and it was hard to be on Bullock's side because he's so real. I like the guy. You know, I need to see more of him. I like him, but at this particular point, he didn't need to be so combative. And I like that Langston went down there to the cemetery and was talking to his mom. I actually teared up because that was a special moment. It's hard to get into reality TV sometimes because when he was talking to his aunt, his / mother, it was like, why did you wait so long or wait for TVs to roll to have this conversation with her? So you kind of threw me off for a minute. But then when you went down to the cemetery, no matter what a script wrote, you couldn't script the true feelings that came out when he was talking to his mom and he was saying mommy and everything. So I really felt him in that moment.
Well,
I think that made me like him more.
I think too, and I agree. I think too, with him talking to his mother, his aunt mother, in the sense that I think that was more of a product, not so much the show, but more of a product of what his spiritual advisor told him to do to kind of clean his house. And obviously you could tell that was a deep-rooted issue with him. And the fact that even when they were having that discussion, you know, he knew at 10, but didn't say anything until he was 20. So there was a 10-year gap of when he was kind of holding in how he felt about the situation and didn't really say anything until he was 20. And then he, you know, told his aunt, about what happened. And then she was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were holding this for so long. And he was still technically holding it because he had to get out what he was going to say.
I think that's a recurring issue with him. First of all, wow, you know, he's about to be consecrated, which is an amazing thing. I'm really happy for him. But I think that it's a recurring theme of him holding things in. You know, with each character, you kind of see their true color show up when we're talking. It's almost if he scripts himself. He's never completely real. You know, everything is kind of a certain tone, a certain choice of words. Sometimes we need to see the real you.
Let it go.
Just let it go because he's still holding all that on. You know, and becoming a bishop, you know, leaders in ministry internalize all the things that people are bringing to them. Because everybody wants them to pray over them. Everybody wants to tell them their problem. He needs to have some type of release for himself in order to not internalize his whole ministry, you know, and all their feelings. And he always does that, keeping things inside. That's a recurring thing with him. And although he did express some words, you can tell that all the walls are not down yet.
Right. So I mean, when he was talking with his mother and he was saying these things, she was very emotional. He was very stoic. Absolutely. And I agree with you on that. But I also think it's difficult because you want to kind of uphold an image. And I'm not saying that if he was to break down and be real, that's going to taint his image. But I think a lot of times if you're in that position where you are a leader in the community, a leader of a church, he's getting ready to be ordained as a bishop, he feels like, okay, well, I need to have this heir apparent about me, when that's not necessarily the case. But I think that that's what he may feel. And we've seen it, you know, in Priests of LA. There was a couple of pastors that didn't really kind of deal with themselves and issues that they had going on in their families. They kind of kept everything at surface level, and you never saw really any true emotion with them. You never saw it, and we see it with him, you know, until I think he went to the gravesite. And I think that's where he did kind of
it began to unravel.
And
like I said, because that part was real, which made me like him more. So you're absolutely right. If they just take off that cloth, take off that cover, take off that suit, take off that face, and be real on reality TV, man, we will definitely feel them and feel their pain and feel what they're going through. The reason why they have the show is to show you show us the real you.
People would feel the church more if they weren't putting pastors and bishops on pedestals that they don't belong on.
Exactly.
They're human.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Let go. Let go when you want to let go.
Which is why I think shows like this are important, because they do kind of show the real essence, or attempt to. Whether
everybody wouldn't agree with that, but I understand.
Right. I mean, I think that to some degree, and I think that there's huge disparity between the two. It's mixed emotions about that, but I think part of the goal in creating this type of show is to kind of show behind the veil, or behind the scenes of these pastors with their families, them dealing with real issues, because typically you see them, they're just in the pulpit. You know, if you go to their church, you see them in the pulpit, you may get a chance to have a meeting with them in their office, but again, you're not going to see behind that, unless they show.
And I also think it like humanizes them more. It brings them back to a relatability. So, it's like they're also people just like the membership, so the congregation. So,
absolutely.
From him being from the streets, a lot of people are deterred from ministry and being in the church, that are from the streets. And it would have been so much more powerful, like Pastor Mo, from the previous episode, to be your real self and show them that I don't have to take my cool off to be with Jesus.
Amen.
I can be me. Yeah. I can have this identity because he already created me divinely. But I can be myself whenever, wherever, no matter what, and still preach the word and still be a believer.
Right.
And that's what he needs to do.
Absolutely.
I dig it.
No, and that's a prime example what Bullock does. And
I was going to say the same thing. Exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of Bullock, I did get a chance to interview him on Monday, and it was great. He's a really good guy. He was very down to earth. He basically was just like he is on TV.
Really?
Like, he is the epitome of what you see on TV. He was the same guy. He didn't have any problem dealing with some of the issues, or kind of things that were controversial about him. One of the things we had talked about is him saying that Jesus was black basically.
Yeah, he did say
and
that.
If Jesus was black and in America, it would be David Bullock.
You know what? I love that. I love that because he drops knowledge, and he lets you dissect the words. And he's like, I said it this way for a specific reason, that you see it this way. I'm not saying that I am, but he said, if he were, he's like, I'm hypothesizing basically. If it
I
were
wouldn't say,
case,
I can see how people can get offended with what he said if they didn't dissect it like you say. And a lot of viewers probably
didn't, of course.
Didn't.
Take it for surface value.
And that's what they did. Especially
so he
when
said
he
would be the black Jesus.
He's saying basically, if Jesus was now in America and he was black, then his name would be David Bullock.
Yes, right.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said verbatim.
You see? Yeah. That's the reaction of a lot of people. Probably.
Everybody, all the comments on the YouTube are saying, we're super supporters of David, and somebody else needs to come in. Now, we didn't necessarily agree with that, and
everybody's not going to agree with you. Yeah, it's cool.
They're taking it for face value again, you know what I'm saying? But I just love that he dropped knowledge. He told us about some books to read. Like, if you watch that interview, you're going to get so much more from it.
It was a good interview. And like I said, he definitely defended any of the things that, I asked him questions on. What I really liked about him, which we don't really see too much with the other preachers, is he's very adamant about helping his city, Detroit.
Yeah, I like that
he's
too.
very adamant. On the show, he talked to us
about the street.
Yeah, exactly. He talked to us about some really interesting things about how the work that he's doing in Flint, Michigan, particularly.
That's even worse than Detroit. Flint is tough.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like the water, and how the water is not good for them. And it's just like, so this drive that he's doing to kind of help, the water system. And we talked about the government system and how it's set up, because he had brought up in one of the episodes, about how, some of them don't have the right to vote, which I was like, I didn't understand that.
I didn't either.
And so he broke that down and really well, and just showed exactly how that happened, how that could happen, in their city. So it was a really great interview. Make sure you tune in and watch that. Like I said, if you want to get to know more about him, tune in. Like I said, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's going to be on there. You can look for it.
I would love to see that interview.
Exactly. Yeah, it was really good. Now I think it's good to get into predictions. Let's do that. Let's go into predictions.
All right.
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
Before we start on predictions, I want to know where is Timothy Aldit? Where is this man at?
Right?
He next episode.
It's like, first of all, this is the third episode.
He's the missing.
He was like 2 seconds of the pilot episode because they had to put him in. And then we've had 2 episodes and he hasn't shown up. We did see the previews. He's going to be in the next episode talking about, abstinence, his drive, what he talks about.
I saw the lead in.
But I'm like, yo, is he being hated on, or like what's going on?
I just think that, Detroit, his ministry has a certain message, and I'm not sure if Detroit has latched onto it, of course, but I'm not sure if Detroit has necessarily latched onto it with the type of community that they're in. So, I mean...
or the show hasn't latched onto it.
It'll be different different for him to be in different arenas where, you know, he may be a more powerful, you know, speaker than the other ones. You know, it's arenas. It's a community that you're in.
I think it's just interesting because I don't know that there's much. We know that with television shows like this, reality shows, they feed off drama. You know, we watch it for the sake of the drama, the things that happen, the arguments, all of those kind of things, the disagreements that happen between cast members. And I think with him, because of what his ministry may be about, I don't think he's had a good place in the show. For instance, I mean, that's just my opinion.
Right, not yet.
My opinion, I think there's been more going on in the lives of the other cast members, which is why they've had you know, more on them. But anyway, I just was throwing that out there. So we'll start with you, Gary. What is your prediction kind of going on up next with some of these cast members?
Humans. I think we're about to see who is human. We're going to see some real things, especially with, you know, Bishop Vaughn's relationship, Pastor Bullock going on a date, the consecration. We're about to really see that pastors are human. Let's take them off this godly pedestal that we're putting them on, these expectations of them to be in these perfect people, and let's see that they're real people, you know, underneath the cloth. I'm ready to see that, you know, and I think that everyone's walls are going to start coming down. You know, Dorinda, I definitely think some walls need to come down with her, so I'm excited to see that.
So you see her open up more.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, just her interaction with her daughter, her husband, I think things will be revealed as to who she really is, because I think a lot is blocked out from her being a Clark sister and, you know, the role people put her up at.
Sure. Okay. TK, what do you think?
I'm with him. You know, and I definitely want to see, you know, just like the evolution of, you know, Bishop Vaughn's relationship, and hopefully they can bring it together.
They'll tell us what Gil does?
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to find out what Gil does.
I'm telling you, that's Tom. You ain't got no job.
He's living a happy retired life.
Papa's Rolling Stone.
Yeah. So what do you think, sir?
You know, the Clark sisters was so famous back in the day.
And still are.
Karen, right. Karen is everything.
And still are.
My prediction is I think she's going to try to get her daughter on some tracks.
Wait a minute. Did you hear her daughter?
Yeah.
No, but that's my prediction. But that's my prediction. My prediction is
that's not her ministry. That's her ministry.
Wait, she had a voice. She had a voice. I don't know if she'd be right. I don't know if she'd be on wax.
I was like, listen, follow me.
I can definitely see. You know, I definitely want to see more of Bullock. Bullock is the reason why I really tune in. That guy right there. Not only is he's turn up and he's, you know, controversial. He does speak a lot of truth. You know, he calls those guys out. I'm waiting for him to call the next guy out. When he called the guys out on having Rolls Royces and big houses and stuff like that, that was what we were thinking as viewers. So he's always speaking for the viewer, in my opinion. So my prediction is that he's gonna push the envelope even more every episode.
Absolutely.
And I would like to see him outreach into the city as well.
Did you see the food drop? I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I think we're definitely going to see. We're definitely going to see more of him doing that. I personally think that we're going to see a lot of Bullock, just because I can't see him not being an integral part of the show. I think I can definitely see him part of every episode, if not, you know, almost every episode, just because of what he brings to the table. As a matter of fact, speaking of the interview we had, when he had his casting interview with the casting director of the show, and I can't remember what he told me he said, but he said something, and she just fell out, and the computer fell on the ground. Whoa. She's like, "Oh, we got to have him on the show." Yeah. So he was just, you know, shooing, and it was a lot of kind of like maybe not knowing, being iffy, because he was younger than everybody. If you notice, everyone's, you know, generally more older, with the exception of
that's
Langston.
why they don't respect him too much,
right? Exactly.
You know, because he's younger. But that's the only thing they can say,
right?
But you know
he's
what?
in his word. He knows
he's
his word.
in his word, and he knows it. And you know what? We need that right now. And I respect all of them. I think they have amazing ministries. But millennials need faith right now. It's a driving thing that we need God right now, and in the community, in the entertainment industry, in so many ways. That Bullock would be so pivotal in that.
Right.
And if once this show really hits and he starts going around the world, he's going to change lives. You're going to see a home to salvation on so many people in our age group.
Yeah. I agree. I also think that, as I said before, I think Pastor Shelby is going to be challenged with kind of his ministry of submission, and just kind of how, just from probably a lot of the other pastors. I think we're going to see that.
The sons. I think someone's going to come for the sons.
One of the sons is going to, he's going to step out. He's going to lash out.
Right.
Because they're going to bump heads. Teenagers with dads usually bump heads anyway. I don't know, like you said, I don't know how Donna's going to take that on there.
And we haven't seen a lot of the sons yet either.
Yeah, true.
And we see that. I also am looking forward to that date with Bullock and the person he's going out with, because I think that's going to be.
I know he's having a date.
Yeah, it was in like earlier previews.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Someone had said he need a first lady, and so he's starting to date, huh?
Yeah, so he's going to go.
Well, honestly, we've already seen your interview, so we know that he's still single. So
I gotta go see your interview. I gotta go see
the interview. Yeah, he's still single technically, but I think it's going to be great TV. That's all I'm going to say. Right. But anyway, but that is our show, ladies and gentlemen. We definitely want to thank you for tuning in. Again, I've been your host, Lem Gonsalvez. You can find me on social media on Twitter and Instagram at The Poet Saint. Where can I find
Patrick
you, sir,
Paul.
again?
You can find me at Patrick Paul and at Patrick Paul from my Instagram and my Twitter and my website, Patrick Paul, Patrick, no K.
There it is.
I'm TK Murphy at Forever TK.
I am Gary Thomas, so I am Gary Thomas at Instagram and Twitter, and I am GaryThomas.com.
Awesome. Make sure you tune in next week. We want to thank you for tuning in tonight.
Thank you.
And we'll see you later.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.